Hello, welcome. I'm glad you guys joined us today for the Salesforce Fellowship Program Information Session. Thanks for joining, and hopefully you can learn more about our program today. I am Stephanie Murphy. I'm the Program Manager for the Salesforce Fellowship Program here. Also today, we have another team member from our team, Iris Collis. She's going to be managing the chat for us today. So in the Q&A, feel free to put your questions in there. We'll stop along the way in the program and answer as many as we can. And then at the very end, she'll make sure that we're answering all the questions that's been posed there. There might be a couple of them she can answer, in the chat, but otherwise they'll be done live. And then next slide. I'm also joined today with our partners at Salesforce Military, Jared Crane, the Director of Workforce Development. And next slide. We also have today one of our former fellows, transitioning service member that graduated yesterday, Emmanuel, with us. That's going to talk about his journey transitioning and obtaining his certification and fellowship process. Next slide. So let me tell you a little bit about hiring our heroes. First, we are part of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. We're part of the foundation arm, which is the nonprofit. We launched back in March of 11, and all we do is just help veterans, military spouses, and service members link with meaningful employment opportunities. So that is our main goal. Next slide. So here's our vision, mission, and values. We help bridge that civilian-military divide with the business community. Working with people at that grassroots level and helping the public and private partnerships. Next slide. So you may be wondering, what is Salesforce? Well, it's not sales, but it's the #1 CRM in the world for the last 9 years in a row. So it's a customer relationship management platform. And it's a way that companies manage and integrate their platform for connected apps. For example, have you ever ordered Starbucks on your phone, or maybe called USAA about a claim, or made a reservation with Marriott? They all use Salesforce, like 87% of the Fortune 500 companies. And Salesforce predicts by 2024, there'll be over 4 million jobs. So this is a great partnership to help the military community to be able to get employment. All right, next slide. So Salesforce Military is set up to help those in the military community obtain their certifications completely for free. So how do you do this? This is a separate process than the fellowship. You must have your certification for participating in the fellowship. You do not receive it during the fellowship, but Salesforce Military makes this so easy. Here's the website. You go to salesforce.com/military. You go through a simple verification process I'll get to in a second, but it's self-paced and it's free for the military community. You can obtain any one of the certifications they offer, but quite often we are asked, which one should you start with? Majority of individuals start with their Salesforce administration. It's the most comprehensive and going to be very foundational for you in learning the platform. All of these certifications are stackable. And the next question we usually get to is, how long should I plan on it whenever I'm getting it to obtain it? Well, I'll be real honest with you. It really depends on your dedication and your discipline and being able to work through this. But also, it's not just a click through the screens and then go take the test. You do have to pay attention to the modules, take notes, practice exams before you take the exam. So it could be, if it was a full-time job for you, take 2 weeks, could take up to 3 months. If you're working full-time and you're in that transitioning process, it could take up to 6 months. So giving yourself some extra time is very valuable. All right, next slide. So how do you do the certification process? So you log on to salesforce.com/military, and then it's a very simple process. You can either use Troop ID You can use your LinkedIn. If you're on Facebook with a lot of, military affiliated, that very easily can be done as well. And it is open to the military community. Dependents can learn off of their service members account as well. But you just go once you get your account set up and you start these free self-paced modules. And once you complete the modules and you've gone through all of them, you will be presented with a free voucher and instructions on scheduling your exam. Or you can also sign up for a free class with the exam at the end, and you can choose that. One also, again, I mentioned it's difficult to take this exam. It is uncommon to not pass the first time. So our friends at Salesforce Military are very good about giving you a retake voucher for free as well. All right, next slide. All right, so as I mentioned, Salesforce Military does the free certification process for you, which is separate from the fellowship program. So you can apply to the program at the same time obtaining your certification. However, they also have quite a bit of other resources that I'm going to hand over and let Jared with Salesforce Military take over and explain the rest to you. Jared?
Hey, thanks, Stephanie. What you see here is a brief overview of the Salesforce Talent Alliance, which I'd love to talk with you all about first. The Salesforce Talent Alliance is an effort that we've taken to specifically help the military community connect with our employers globally that are looking to hire veterans, service members, and military spouses onto their teams. Right now, I know the slide says 300, but we currently have over 500 employers that have guaranteed to give automatic interviews for any members of the military community that have earned a Salesforce certification. And that's not a one-time deal. So if you earn a certification on Salesforce through the Salesforce military platform and the Salesforce Talent Alliance, you can have up to 500 automatic interviews. For any of you that have gotten into the corporate work environment, you understand sometimes getting into the door and getting in front of someone is the hardest part. We already have 500 companies that have signed up and guaranteed to talk to you. The second major piece is they are specifically looking for folks that don't have a depth of experience. These are net new positions. So usually for someone that's coming into a new industry like this, we have the chicken or the egg program. You can't get a job because you don't have experience, but you're not able to build the experience because you can't get a job. These employers that have committed to the Salesforce Talent Alliance are looking for folks that have less than 6 months of experience and they're starting out in their Salesforce careers. The third piece that we love highlighting is there's no degree requirement. So especially for those of you transitioning out of the military, you're not going to get screened out automatically because you don't have a bachelor's degree. We're finding that folks without degrees are able to have incredible careers earning six figures with no problem within the Salesforce ecosystem. And we're here to help you to get the certifications, the training, and the knowledge that are going to make you successful in this. The last piece, especially for those of you that have attended any transition courses on base or on post, you are learning the importance of the network. The Salesforce Talent Alliance has a built-in network where you're able to connect with recruiters and employers directly to be able to learn about positions they have coming open. You're able to meet other employer or other job seekers that are looking to be able to connect, and they're going to be able to support you, offer advice, talk about ways that they've seen successful. I know this company is having a bunch of openings coming up. So leveraging that network is absolutely what's going to help you to be able to connect. Can I get the next slide, please?
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jared. Okay, so as Jared explained, Salesforce Military has quite a bit offered. And in this partnership with them, now we handle the fellowship program. So as I mentioned, you can apply to the program at the same time as obtaining your certification. And this is open to transitioning service members, veterans, and military spouses. It is a virtual, completely 100% remote fellowship program. The first week is orientation, and then you spend 11 weeks with your host company. So you go through the process of applying. Once all the details have been met by the deadline, then you will be matched with someone on our team here at Hiring Our Heroes for an interview. Once you've gone through the interview process and make it to the next phase, then everybody competing with you will be put in a resume release. This will be sent to the host companies that have agreed to host a fellow during the next cohort, and there will be an interview window that will take place for about a month. Host companies will reach out to those candidates that they want to interview. So I just like to always, note not everybody gets an interview. And then at the end of the interview window, we do a preference sheet turned in to myself. And that means that the host companies will fill out and rank everybody that they've interviewed. And then the candidates will rank all of the interviews that they've had. And then the matching process will take place. There is not a fellowship for everyone, but we maximize as many as we can. There are not limited spots. It's just a matter of what the host companies are looking for and what the matching process warrants. And then you would be starting in the next cohort and start with your host company for that 11 weeks after orientation. All right, next slide. So who is eligible to apply? So we mentioned the transitioning service member, veteran, and military spouse. Would like to note that military spouses and veterans must reside in the United States. You must have a Salesforce certification by the application deadline. You must be available the whole 12 weeks of the fellowship. It is a full-time fellowship. So if you're not able to commit during normal business hours, or you're doing, maybe an MBA program that takes you away during the day, then this current time frame may not be best for you. Also, you must be able to work in the US without sponsorship. And then, all of the application details and requirements must be in by the deadline. So our next cohort will start in January. That application deadline is October 22nd. Here is the site where you can go on and start your application process. Think of it more as a way of gaining the information of what's needed. Once you apply, Iris, who's handling the Q&A, is on our team, and she does the initial communications by sending you all of the details. So everything you need to know on what's required, deadlines, details, and that will start the process of you understanding what's required of you. Next slide. Okay, I wanted to be able to distinguish on transitioning service members and veterans and military spouses. Because this is an approved skill bridge program for transitioning service members, it works just like any other skill bridge that you would do, or if you're familiar with our corporate fellowship program. So you must be on active duty in your last 6 months. So that means that from the first day of the fellowship to the last day of your active duty, not when you start leave, but your last day of receiving a paycheck from the DoD, must be in a 180-day window. And that's just the MOU that's set up with the Department of Defense. And then you must have command approval. And then you must be able to accept an offer and start work 30 to 45 days after the fellowship. Host companies are going to invest this time in you, and they're not going to want more than that as a lead time for you to accept. And then those that fall in the veterans and military spouse category, you will receive a stipend that's paid by Salesforce of $25 an hour while you're in the fellowship. It's paid through a third-party agency that we've worked with for years, and they act as your employer during that time frame. That being said, $25 an hour is not necessarily tied to your salary potential and the role that you'll do after the fellowship. But it's a great national average that we've come up with for you. All right, next slide. Okay, so as I mentioned, we have a manual with us today, and I thought it would be really great for him to help explain for transitioning service members. It's a lot when you're transitioning out of the military. Working through that transition, planning it out, how to get your certification, and just, the fellowship itself and how that happens. So, Emmanuel, if you wouldn't mind sharing your story with us and explaining a little bit more about that, we'd love to be able to share that.
Thank you, Stephanie. I just want to say I'm very grateful to be here at this point, sharing my experience. I was in the same position a few months ago, and I can't believe it's already end of fellowship and things are going great. So, as a transitioning service member, I think my journey started 18 months ago. 18 months ago, I started thinking through plans of getting out and what job I was going to get. I think the fear and anxiety really had me looking at different options. So once I learned about Salesforce, I decided to take a look at the modules and on Trailhead utilizing Salesforce military. I think the biggest thing for me was planning to get a first certification. And usually the admin certification is what gives you the basic fundamentals of what the platform is about. And then once you get that, you can build up on it. So it probably took me 6 months to go through the certification. Once again, I still had to juggle between regular military life as well as learning for that. So it took me 6 months to get my certification. I know some people, it takes them less time. It's really up to you and your personal goals. It can take you longer, it can take you a shorter time. And it all depends on what goals you set for yourself. I think the program going through the training on Salesforce military is great. They have it where all the fundamental modules cover everything you need to know for the examination. One beneficial thing I would point out is that having after going through the modules is doing practice exams. It really did help me to get my certification on the first go. Like Stephanie mentioned, it's not unusual to not get the certification on the first go. There are a lot of people that on the second try get that certification. So once I was able to get that certification, I put in my application before deadline. I went through the hiring process of resume release, and I did about 2 or 3 interviews with those companies. I think deciding on which host company to go with becomes a little bit tricky because you're all excited to get on board with them. I'm very proud to say once I decided to go with my company, which is PS, I've gone through the fellowship. Yesterday was graduation. It was great. I'm glad to say I got an offer and I'm starting next month. I just want to track back a little bit. I've been in the Army for 4 years, and in those 4 years, I've been a medic. As a medic, one may ask, how are you transitioning into the IT industry? I think with the program, it's very, very possible once you get certification and once you get on the fellowship, you will get accustomed to the platform and the way it works. The biggest fear once you get a certification is getting hands-on. Without any experience, it becomes a little bit scary because not many companies out there are willing to bring you on with no experience at all. This was me 3 months, 4 months ago. I had no experience at all. But right now, I can tell you there's a lot I've learned through the fellowship. It's very important that I mention as well that once you are in the fellowship, do not forget to keep learning. There's a whole lot to learn. There's a whole lot of information out there that you need to keep reading and looking at and trying your hands out on it. This Salesforce ecosystem is so huge. Thankfully, there's a military family out there, people out there who are willing to help you, who are willing to answer questions. And I would say utilize them. Utilize every single personnel, every single person that's willing to help you out. Next slide. Are there any questions? What's something to take over?
Perfect. I think we're going to do all the questions at the end. I'm sorry, I kind of skipped over one of the question slides. So we see all of these coming in the chat. We're going to answer all of these in just 1 second. What I would like to do is hand it over to Jared Crane real quick. And he has a few more words to share with you guys before we get into the Q&A.
Hey, thank you, Stephanie. I did see a couple of questions coming in, and I did want to address kind of up front. First step with part of this is getting on to the Salesforce military program webpage, which is salesforce.com/military. And I'll put it here in the chat shortly, but logging into that will start to get you on this path where you can access the training, which will lead to the certification vouchers and ultimately get you the certification needed to be eligible for this fellowship. Salesforce offers 18 certifications right now to our veterans, service members, and military spouses. And when we say veterans, we mean anyone with prior military service within the U.S., from the U.S. Armed Forces, U.S., Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and Canada. When we say service members, we mean active, National Guard, Reserve. When we say military spouses, we mean military spouses of active, National Guard, Reserve veterans. So, very, very inclusive in who we're bringing in for the program. It's also not a one-time deal. So you have the ability to earn up to 18 certifications right now that we provide, and it's all completely free. We do not ask for $1 from you. We do not ask for GI Bill benefits. We do not ask for you to copay or earn something back. Everything that we're going to do for you is completely free. So you have the ability to earn your initial certification, go through this fellowship, and then continue earning certifications through the Salesforce military program that we'll continue to cover the cost for. So again, and I think Iris just put it in the chat as well, salesforce.com/military. If you jump onto that webpage, click register, it's going to start walking you through the process. The last piece, Stephanie, that I do want to be able to plug in here, even if you're not looking at getting into a technical type position, Salesforce offers you the ability to connect with over 150,000 Salesforce customers globally. And by customers, I mean companies. Just like how Stephanie mentioned, Marriott, Starbucks, T-Mobile, all of these companies are using Salesforce for their internal operations. For you, if you're looking at working at some of these organizations or applying to some of these companies, if you know the software that they're using to run their day-to-day operations, if you know the platform that they're using to be able to manage and process and control their data, it's going to make you that much more of a competitive candidate. You already know how they're operating. It's one less thing that they're going to have to train somebody up on. And you're going to know the language of how they're starting to communicate and interacting with their customers. And that alone helps set you up for a successful career, regardless of the industry you're getting into.
All right, great. So let's just go ahead and open up the Q&A. And we will answer all the questions that you have here today, whether it's for the fellowship, if it's something Salesforce can answer, or if you have a question for Emmanuel. So Iris, what was one of the first questions?
We have Hannah. She said, how competitive is the fellowship program to get into? What is the number of applications that you get?
Okay, great question. So when we launched, probably last May, until this point in time, we've had almost 2,700 applications. So as there's a lot of applications, I will tell you, not everybody finishes their application process. So some individuals don't make the deadline, life happens, some don't obtain their certification. So it's really hard to determine just by applications. However, that being said, If you obtain your certification and you get all the details in by the cohort's application deadline, and you are able to interview well with one of our team members, then you are put through in the resume release. And at that point in time, it is really up to the host companies in their decision on who they interview. I have zero control once it goes out as the resume release. And the process, I will tell you, to make you a really great candidate is once you apply, we provide you all of the resources that we suggest you be doing. So interview prep, how to practice for your exams so that you can pass it, who you should be meeting with at Veterati to do mentorship to help you understand more career paths and details and journey for entering in the ecosystem. Networking with people on LinkedIn, how to use your LinkedIn. So we help equip you to be a really good candidate. If you're coachable and you're able to follow these steps, you'll do very well. All right. Is there another question?
Okay, so I have one here saying, I'm in the admin course now, and you can't start the developer module until you pass the admin module. Is that right, Jared?
Yes, absolutely true. There's typically two certifications that folks will start first. One being the administrator, the other being the platform app builder. Those are our two entry-level certifications. The developer module is a little bit more advanced. But yeah, once you get through those entry-level modules, it opens up some additional, a little bit more advanced modules or certification paths that people can take.
Perfect. I also see one here from Jay. It says, does your company provide free certification voucher for active duty? So just as Jared had explained, and I had explained in the beginning, it is open to transitioning service members. So yes, if you log on, get an account with salesforce.com/military, and go through all of the modules. When you get to the end, it will present you with a voucher for taking the exam. All right, Iris, what else do we have?
We have someone here wanting to know if the fellowship is 100% virtual.
It is. So it is 100% virtual, and 95% of the roles after the fellowship that these fellows have accepted are also virtual. So it's a great remote program, portable career for you and your family.
And just another question, just to clear it up, veterans will get hired after the fellowship program?
So
it's a guarantee.
This is not a guarantee, but every host company has raised their hand and said they wanted to host a fellow. So whether you're a transitioning service member, military spouse, or a veteran, and you are matched for a fellowship, you are actually doing the fellowship of what you interviewed for that open rec for that company that has the intent to hire. Now, during the fellowship, you have to show up every day. You have to perform. You have to make sure you're doing everything you can to get that role. Think of it almost as 11 weeks of an interview timeframe. So every day you get to show your strengths, and we have about a 92% job offer rate at the end of the fellowship. So it's a very high probability, but there are no guarantees because you still have to do your part. Hopefully that answers your question.
We have a great question here from Richard. This sounds like an amazing opportunity, but what are the options for transitioning service members whose last day of active duty does not fall neatly into the cohort calendar? For example, if our last day of active duty falls before the cohort ends, then we are not eligible for the internship, correct?
So what is amazing about this program, as it is an improved skill bridge program, if for some reason as a transitioning service member in the middle of the cohort, you no longer on active duty, then you would be classified as a veteran. And then you would receive that stipend that I talked about, which is for veterans and military spouses. So you actually get the best of both worlds. So you still would qualify, and just communicate that with us once you apply and receive the initial communications from Iris.
A lot of people want to know how competitive is the fellowship? How many applicants do we have?
So I already addressed that question. I'm not going to talk about as far as applications because not everybody finishes their application. So that being said, if you apply, we will give you all of the details that you need to make you very competitive. So again, if you're coachable and you're willing to put in the work, I think Emmanuel would agree. We do a pretty good job of putting you through your paces, and we expect a lot, we share a lot, but it does pay off. Emmanuel, do you want to talk on that at all?
It's all about dedication, guys. You need to know what you want. With a program like this, there's a lot of requirements, but once you're able to get everything on board, it's a really great opportunity. For me, I found out about the program quite late, so the deadline was pretty close. But I did make sure I had all the requirements to put in. But once you meet that deadline, Stephanie and the team do an amazing job at finding you a host company.
Perfect. Thanks, Emmanuel. Okay, so I see a question from Tina. It says, understand not guaranteed to get hired, but since during the fellowship you're working for a particular company, they can decide to put you on their payroll if they liked your performance. Absolutely. So the whole intent is employment at the end. That is my goal. I work with the host companies. I talk to them. I do a check-in on week 4 and week 8 during the fellowship to make sure things are going well, make sure that offer is going to be coming at the end, help out with any situations that I can help clear up. And so that is the goal, is the employment at the end. All right, let's see. Yeah.
There's a question here from Dennis asking about, yes, I can share the position I was offered. So I've been offered a position as a Salesforce consultant. There are different pathways in the Salesforce industry. As an admin or a consultant, sometimes they are used interchangeably, but I decided to go with the consultancy route. So my role I was offered was being a Salesforce consultant.
Perfect. Thank you. All right.
I have another question. If you do not get matched to a company, do you get moved to another fellowship session?
So good question. Very good. Correct. So if there is a situation where you are not matched or you don't receive any interviews, you do have the opportunity, if you would like, to move to the next cohort and participate in the next one. But also what I try to do is sometimes there are host companies, just either they have an immediate need or they might, just not be able to commit to the whole fellowship because of their restraints on their teams and the time it takes for mentorship. I might be able to link you up with those HR departments and those hiring managers that have immediate needs and help you out as well. Also, I will connect you, as Jared talked about, to the Talent Alliance. And, that's a fabulous way for you to be able to network into a position as well. So just because you're not in the fellowship, I still try to work through with you as best I can. But absolutely, if you want to wait to the next cohort, then yes, you can be included. All right. Let's see, what else? There's a question here from Kim. Is there a limit of 2 vouchers per certification? Yes. What happens if you fail twice?
It depends. We've seen it depends. So potentially we might, but I don't want to commit to that. But usually we've seen people take up the certification up to 5 times before they pass. So it's not uncommon for people to take multiple times to pass the certification exam. The biggest thing we want to stress is, one, if you've gotten to the point where you earn a voucher and you do take that certification exam and it doesn't go well, don't walk away from it and think that this isn't a path for you. It absolutely is. And there are people that have phenomenal careers that didn't pass their first exam. There's a woman I know who has been working in the ecosystem, making a fantastic salary for multiple years, and it took her 4 tries to be able to pass the admin exam. So we don't want you to psych yourself out and think you're going to do poorly, but we also don't want you to think, hey, if I only have 2 shots to make this go.
Good answers there. So I see here, Danielle, there is no degree requirement. So good question on that. And then also there's a question from a transitioning service member. If the cohort doesn't end within 30 to 45 days of separation date, is that an issue? I would tell you there's always unique circumstances, and that can be negotiated with your host company. Because if you're not on the terminal leave, then you can double dip if you're willing to go ahead and accept a position, but you're not quite retired yet or separated. All right, what other questions? If you apply for the fellowship and aren't chosen for a host company, can you reapply? So we went through that. What's the total time for the entire program? So for the total time, let me give you an example. Our cohort that starts in January, the application deadline is October 22nd. Resumes will go out to host companies. Let's see, I have it written here on my whiteboard, November 1st. And it'll be for 1 month that interview window will take place. So you will find out around December 13th, 14th, if you have a fellowship. We'll go into the holidays, and then starting that second week in January, we'll do an orientation before you start the following week with your host company. There's a little extra time in there because of the holidays. Not many people work that last 2 weeks of the year, so it's hard to do it during that time, anything else. But typically that would be the time frame. If you're interested in knowing, feel free to write myself at smurphy@uschamber.com, and I'll be happy to share 22-1 cohort dates with you with application information and deadlines as well. All right. What other questions have we missed?
What are the fellowship hours?
So that will be set up with your host company, but it is a max of 32 hours, Monday through Thursday, with your host company. So whatever battle rhythm you set up with your host company, it might depend. If you're on the East Coast and they're on the West Coast, you guys will figure out that battle rhythm. But you'll work the 32 hours each week. And then on Fridays, you will come together with the rest of your cohort with HOH for a couple of hours, and we do what we call leadership huddles. So part of the time you have a presentation from a host company that is going to be directly related to help you do your job, whether they're doing a live demo of, creating an app, or they're talking about salary negotiations, or you're learning about being a consultant. Whatever that weekly topic is. And then the second half of that, you're going to meet with your cohort and all your peers, and you guys will talk about, your wins for the week, or maybe some challenges to work through, resources to help each other. I know every cohort, there's a couple of individuals that get together in different groups, and they can support each other. They're working on familiar projects. Maybe it's developers, maybe they're working financial force, maybe it's needing some additional help on the flow builder. And so they'll create different groups and help each other out. We're told that the Friday huddles are sometimes the secret sauce to the program, and it gives you an ability to talk with your current peers since everybody works virtually. Hopefully that answered that question. All right.
I have a great question here from Jerry. Let me see if I understand it right. What is to be expected in the fellowship during training? I'm not understanding. What if the veteran students is learning, AKA work? I'm not sure if he's saying that. Are you allowed to work during the fellowship?
So I'm not sure I completely understand as well, but I'll try to explain it the best I can. During the fellowship, you are doing the actual role and learning the role that you are going to be hired for. So if you're going to be hired for as a Salesforce admin, or as Emmanuel said, he's going to be a Salesforce senior consultant, or you're going to be a business analyst. You're going to be doing those day-to-day tasks just as if you were hired full-time. But you get the opportunity to learn all of the culture, all of the day-to-day activities, go to the meetings, work on projects and do tasks and do demos with clients, have meetings with clients, and do that at a slower pace, working up to that time when the fellowship ends. So it's hands-on virtually so that you can learn your role before you actually have to do it. Hopefully that answered the question. Was there any more in the chat that we missed? I saw someone asked, double dipping, what does that mean? So if you are still on active duty and you finish the fellowship, maybe you have 2 weeks, 3 weeks left before you're off active duty, and your fellowship has ended, and you have an offer in hand, and you start the Monday after the fellowship. So that means you will be collecting a paycheck of double dipping from your host company that now is your full-time employer, and as an active duty member for those final 3 weeks, if that's what you choose to do. You can negotiate your start date, that maybe you don't want to start until after you're out of the military because you're moving or you have a family trip or what have you. But if you do want to do that, that has happened several times, and that's completely normal. All right, and Salesforce is worldwide. I see a question from Ronald. All right, have I missed anything else? So there is a 2-week period, I think, Jared, to wait once you failed in order to be able to reschedule your retake exam. Is this correct?
Not necessarily baked in. It's but usually it's about 2 weeks for somebody to process to get a new certification voucher and then to set it up. So, and the time that somebody needs to be able to go through again to restudy, I don't know if that's a word, re-prepare themselves for, to get themselves set up. The great thing about the exams as well is you'll get feedback on the areas where you needed work on. So that the test is broken up in a number of different sections. You're going to get feedback on which part of the sections you had issues with. So what areas you maybe need to focus more on to be able to study for the next time you take the exam and pass it.
Good point there. So Kyle, I see you have a point, 18 fellows have potentially 2,700 applications. So we're getting ready to kick off our 6th cohort. So that 2,700 applications has been for those 6 cohorts. Hopefully that clears up your question. And it varies on how many is in each cohort. It really just varies on the hiring needs of the host companies and how many qualified candidates through that time frame. Okay, Iris, am I missing anything else?
I have a great question here. How many employers can Hiring Our Heroes handle per fellowship?
Perfect question. So that's really good. Because it really depends, and I hate to say that again, but each cohort, we have different numbers of host companies participating. So think about it. I'm going to be asking host companies which ones want to participate right before the November 1st resume release, which will be the cohort that will start in January. They have to forecast out their hiring needs for when that fellowship graduates, which is April 1st. So that's a long time, right? But we have very committed partners, Salesforce aligned companies that have done a great job of working with us throughout the whole process that commit to doing that. So we might have 20 one cohort, we might have 50 that will be in the resume release. Not all of them will get a match fellowship with a fellow during that time frame. So it really just depends on the hiring needs at that time. I have yet to have a cohort where all the positions have been filled. And I'm surprised Jared didn't say this because he usually does. There are more positions out there than we can find talent for.
Can I piggyback in on that, Stephanie?
Yeah.
The beauty of the setup here is that there are absolutely more jobs out in the ecosystem than we have folks right now for. So everyone, you're seeing and hearing a lot of these numbers and these metrics, and they're fantastic, but this is not the only way to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that Salesforce Military has for you. If this fellowship, if it maybe doesn't line up with your transition timeline, or you have life issues that are going on that are preventing you from being able to do or take advantage of it, or you want to go to work and earn your certification tomorrow, the Talent Alliance is ready to connect you with employers that are looking for people right now. So I like to think of it as, it's multiple layers of nets that you're able to fall into. Fellowship is a fantastic way for you to be able to connect with employers that are looking for you, but there's also that safety net of 500 plus employers that are looking for military talent right now to bring in. And there are multiple opportunities for you to be able to take advantage of this. We have the Talent Alliance that you're able to tap into. We have a mentorship program that you're able to access to be able to engage with Salesforce professionals that are in the workplace already. And we have a community within Salesforce Military that you're able to connect with and network with and learn about and find opportunities to be able to help you. We just want you to get a job.
Yes, that's the goal. So I saw several questions as he was speaking. So the voucher will be sent to you electronically through your email. So that's how you'll receive that. It'll be presented to you when you finish those modules. Someone asked, can you participate in the corporate fellowship program here at Hiring Our Heroes and the Salesforce fellowship program? The answer is yes, to a point. So you can apply up to 2 SkillBridge programs within HOH and go through the resume release. And then depending on what that progress brings for you, you can choose which one is for you. This happens every cohort, but you can't do 2 fellowships, if that makes sense. Next question was, do I get to pick the company? The answer would be, it depends. And the reason I say that is you go through the resume release and you go through the interviews. If there are multiple host companies that select you as their #1 fellow, their #1 candidate, then you get to decide which one you go to. Every resume release, we have a rock star or a couple of them that have multiple selections of #1, and we let them decide. It's your career. There's no reason for me to make that decision for you. And then do host companies only take 1 fellow? So again, it depends. If the host company is looking for 5 individuals or Salesforce consultant, they can take up to 5 if they're matched with 5. Some host companies are looking for multiple roles. They might want multiple fellows in each of those roles. So it really just depends. All right, Iris, have I missed anything else?
I have a question here saying I have started the admin and the email marketing certificates. The email marketing cert is significantly shorter. Will I get selected just for email marketing cert?
So according to HOH, if you have any certification, you must have 1, but any one of them we do not mind. So you would meet that, credential of needing a certification. It would just be up to the host companies of what they're looking for. Some cohorts, I have host companies specifically looking for someone with that background. Some cohorts, I do not. So it's just a matter of, the timing, I would tell you.
And to tie into that, I'd offer email marketing is a lot more specialized in the knowledge of the platform. Your admin or app builder cert are going to give you a much broader knowledge of the Salesforce platform to where you'd be able to fill in a lot more positions and a lot more roles. Most of the employers that we talk to, they see admin or app builder knowledge as kind of the base, and then adding some of those things on top of it are what can help differentiate you. So if email marketing is the only cert that you have, it's going to limit you in the opportunities where employers are going to see you being able to join their team.
Perfect. All right, Iris, we have time for one more question. What have we not answered?
The final question then is, somebody's wondering if this recording will be made available, if they didn't catch everything.
Absolutely. So it will be done with our digital team next week, and it will be put on our website. So be on the watch for that. We have all of our webinars we've done with all of our programs on there. I would highly encourage you to go look. They have resources for interview prep, using LinkedIn, transitioning, and then all of the resources that, could help anybody in their career journey for the next step. I appreciate very much you showing up, spending time with us today to learn about this program. It has changed lives. Every cohort. It has been my absolute pleasure to help all of those that have come through the program. Appreciate Jared, our partners at Salesforce Military, being here. Emmanuel, thank you so much for your time today after graduating yesterday. I'm sure you're ready to be done. And if you have any questions of us on the program, feel free to reach out, smurphy@uschamber.com, and we look forward to helping you in your next career. All right. Bye, everybody.